Good afternoon, everybody. I am very much privileged and thankful to Dr. Sangeeta Dongre and the conveners and with the organizing team for inviting me for this international e-conference on sustainable development, a biological and socio-economic perspective. I'll be basically focusing on the theme sustainable development with respect to socio-economics. And the topic of my discussion today is assessing livelihood resilience to climate change, a case study from Odisha. Now, to begin with, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Kakuli Banerjee, Assistant Professor in Department of Biodiversity and Conservation of Natural Resources, Central University of Odisha. Now, coming to my topic, why I chose this topic is aquaculture potential in India as per FAO encompassing both the brackish water as well as the freshwater resources. Among the brackish water resources, 15% of the area is being utilized. But unfortunately, we have lot amount of freshwater resources like ponds, lakes, reservoirs, paddy fields, even rivers, canals and springs. But out of those freshwater resources, spring water resources are not utilized to the extent that it would have been. Now, with this background, I will basically focus on the area from which I belong, that is Koraput, which is known for a tribal district in KBK belt of the Orissa state. Now, as per UN Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 1 focuses on no poverty, goal number 2 on zero hunger, and goal number 13 on climate action, which we need to develop and focus on livelihood options where people might be having some alternative methods in case they are not sustainable with the present scenario. Now, on this background, I would highlight particularly the geographical area of Koraput is 8,81,000 hectares, out of which cultivable area is 2,87,000 hectares and non-agricultural used area is 54,000 hectares. Now, the average temperature of this place ranges from 13 to 42 degrees centigrade and average rainfall is about 1500 millimeters. Now, this area is blessed with lot many waterfalls, out of which there are four major waterfalls which are a matter of concern and should be utilized, which are underutilized in this area. So although this area has lot amount of water resources, but there is no sustainable use of these water resources excepting agriculture. So the rest amount of water is drained off directly and it goes on to the canals and wherever, which is not even estimated. Now this particular area which I am focusing is a Nandpur village. That is a village area in this Koraput district, which is a tribal dominated area and is vicinity is in the valleys of the among the mountains or the hills of the Eastern Ghats. And here most of the people are agriculturalists and some 30 to 40% people depend upon shifting cultivation, which is a menace in today's world in terms of forest conservation. So looking at this particular background, our aim was to find out a sustainable resource or a sustainable technology in which we can engage people in coming out with some sustainable aquacultural practices so that the underutilized water may be harnessed and even the socio-economic profile can be improved. Now, with this aim, we had three objectives of this work. First, to find out some formulated prawn feed from indigenous resources, particularly floral resources, and to develop a culture technology using these natural resources, which is never done in this part for the last 10, I mean, a decade. Then we also thought about to find out the cost benefit analysis of this work so that we can come out with some sustainable technology. Now, with this aim, we started our survey on 5 selected grass species and we started estimating their protein, carbohydrate, lipid, and astaxanthin. Now, for prawn culture, actually, when we are talking about sustainable livelihood, we have to think of that the grasses that we are using or whatever indigenous resources that we will be using should be available in the villages. So now on that background, we started finding out what are the common grasses that are easily, widely available in the total district. And we came out with these 5 species. We estimated their protein, which almost ranged from 1.85 to 5.85%. And of course, astaxanthin values were quite high, which we got from 481 to 1385 ppm of astaxanthin. Now, these 4 grasses which we have evaluated is Agrastosis, Setaria, Eleusine, Cynodon, Dictylium. All these grasses which we analyzed were used in feed formulation and composition of the different feed were formulated using these grasses. The first and foremost thing that we did is we estimated carbohydrate, protein, lipid, vitamin, minerals, astaxanthin, and what are the binders and attractant are the common used, which are generally used for any feed preparation. Now we use the ingredients, particularly the wheat flour, then rice bran, then panicum, soybean, fish oil, fish meal, clam meal. Now all these are the traditional ingredients that is generally used for the conventional feed preparation. What we did extra is in our feed, we incorporated the extracts or the dried powder, particularly from Setaria and Cynodon, which had a greater protein as well as astaxanthin percentage, because you know astaxanthin is an antioxidant which gives a disease resistive property of the prawns. So on this basis we emphasized on these 2 grasses, and Cynodon is widely available and its protein content was quite high in comparison to the other 5 species, along with the soybean which has been replaced in place of the animal feed so that the feed has a longer sustainability. Now we went into the proximate composition of the different feeds that we did in terms of even the ingredients which were formulated, and then we made the feed by the normal procedure, and then we estimated the protein, lipid, carbohydrate, astaxanthin and moisture content in the feed, out of which you can see that I have marked in red the protein and astaxanthin content were quite high in the formulated feed, which has been expressed here as FF. Now the amino acid content was also estimated for the feed that was prepared, and we have taken basically 10 amino acids which are widely available in the prawn feed. So that was our motto, and we have seen that almost out of that 60 to 70% amino acids were present in our formulated feed. So this was the major challenge to take up in this particular tribal belt. And then we went into the culture of the prawns, where we estimated their growth in terms of survival rate, length, their initial weight, their initial, then their gain in weight, their gain in length, that their daily growth rate. Then we went for the specific growth rate, then the condition index of the prawns, as well as the FCR values. In that, after we went for the conventional feed, we took 4 ponds where the different one was conventional feed and the other we have put the formulated feed, and here 2 ponds for conventional feed and 2 ponds for formulated feed, and we got a very good result in case of formulated feed, where you can see we have marked in red the gain in weight, the gain in length, as well as the FCR values were quite low. The condition index was good. So above all, we could say that the formulated feed that we prepared was a new innovation in this area, because prawn culture in this area has been started for the first time. There was no prawn culture in the area, tribal area of Koraput, because nobody was of the opinion that the temperatures particularly do not sustain the growth of the prawns. Now, when I'm talking about climate change, I have told you this area also is facing climate change problem, because the temperature of this area is slowly rising. Even from, I can say, for the last 7 8 years, where the temperatures were very less, from 4 degrees 2 degrees temperature, it was in the winter season, and in the summer it used to go to maximum of 30 degrees. Now the temperature has increased. Now this is a signature. Now, this was a signature for our innovation, because if the temperature has increased, in that case, automatically there should be some sustainability of this culture, because we all know that prawns need a minimum tropical temperature, particularly 20 to 25 degrees centigrade, for its molting. That is a very important aspect. And then we went into the proximate analysis of the prawns, where we estimated the prawn flesh with the for protein, carbohydrate, lipid, and astaxanthin. And there also we found the formulated feed prawn had a better result of protein, lipid, carbohydrate, and astaxanthin in comparison to the conventional feed. Now, this is a graphical representation of the field culture, and which is very important parameter is to see the water quality. Now, water quality was measured in terms of temperature, pH, DO, transparency, nitrate, phosphate, and silicate. And also, of course, we did a chlorophyll A estimation, as well as we did the soil organic carbon percentage. Now, in all these data, you can see that temperatures, and now because this, now you can say why the temperature was decreasing. The temperature was decreasing because we had done the culture during April to October, so automatically the temperatures drop here. So we took a precaution of starting the culture in the month of April and ending it by the end of October. It's a 6 months culture, so that we don't have to take a risk of the lowest temperature, which goes generally during November and December. The chlorophyll concentration has slowly increased during the starting period, and then decreased during the monsoon, and again increased during the nearing the post monsoon. So that is a characteristic phenomenon of phytoplankton, because generally the phytoplankton has two breeding season, in the month of pre-monsoon and in the month of post-monsoon. Now, pH is very important factor for molting, because and also it maintains the alkalinity or acidity of the particular area of the pond. And here the pH was almost alkaline throughout the culture. We maintained that with the addition of lime wherever necessary, and the pH basically ranged from 7.5 to 8.5. The DO levels, of course, it was in a decreasing trend, because dissolved oxygen is always will be lower with the increasing growth of the prawn, because more amount of oxygen will be absorbed. So that was the thing. And transparency, of course, it decreased during the monsoon and again increased during the post monsoon. Similarly is the case of nitrate and phosphate, which increased with the increasing concentration. Now what happens is, with the increasing of the growth, now when we are adding feed, extra feed, when we are using some other applications, suppose lime we are adding, now all these additions, and the leftover feed, it increases the turbidity of the water. So and the runoffs from the adjacent areas also increases the turbidity of the water body. So then the soil organic carbon will automatically increase, because with the increasing number of feed that we are applying, automatically the soil organic carbon concentration is supposed to increase because of the leftover feed and as well as from the excreta of the prawn. So we then went into the fortnightly recorded growth parameters of Macrobacterium. and we measured the length, weight, and the specific growth rate, the condition index of the prawns. Then we were, and then if you see that there is always a increasing trend with respect to length and weight because the prawn is growing. So this is a symbol or indicator that the growth of the prawn is increasing in its growth. The specific growth rate, of course, if when you are looking into specific growth rate, obviously the Macrobacterium rosenbergi has a discrete growth rate, and so somewhere the initial phase there will be a lot of increase of the growth, and slowly it may we will be decreasing a little bit with the males growing faster than the females. Now condition index of the prawns were also done, and you can see that the condition index as the length is to weight ratio was almost uniform throughout, which is a symbol of the good growth. To give a statistical approach to this particular result, we plotted the length weight relationship of all the four ponds, which showed a positive correlation with respect to length and weight, and you can see from the figure that it is almost 0.98. Here you should keep in mind that we have forbidden the plant origin feed with respect to animal origin, where the water quality in comparison to of using prawn feed was better than the formulated feed, because automatically when there will be floral resources, water quality will be maintained much better. Now we went for the ANOVA analysis of the different parameters between days and between ponds, and we got significant differences of the with respect to growth of the prawn, with respect to condition index, specific growth rate, daily growth rate, then prawn growth, prawn protein percentage, carbohydrate, lipid, and astringent. All the four parameters have shown a significant difference, proving that our feed has proved to be sustainable in terms of the culture and the water quality maintenance. Now, when we are talking about socio-economic aspect of a particular project, we have to look after the cost benefit analysis, which is very, very important. Now, how much is our investment and how much is our profit? It's very important, because when you are going for sustainable technology, the farmers, whether it is a fish farmer or agricultural farmer, will always focus on what is the profit, why he should opt this particular project as his sustainable technology. Now on this background, we calculated the investment cost, and also with respect to conventional feed and as well as with the formulated feed, and also the benefit. And then we went for the benefit cost ratio, and you can very well see that of course there is not much difference, but still there was almost a marginal difference with the formulated feed, which costed where the investment cost was 2700 in comparison to 2600 in case of conventional feed. But if you see the benefit in terms of rupees per meter square, you can see that it is almost the double. Benefit cost ratio that was calculated in conventional feed was 1.46 in comparison to the formulated feed, which was quite high, that is 1.75. So this cost benefit analysis that we took out by selling the prawns that was cultured has clearly emphasized on the fact that this type of culture is quite sustainable in a place like Koraput. So to conclude my lecture, I would like to say that freshwater prawn farming can act as an alternative livelihood for the farmers in Koraput who are purely agriculturalists, and the sustainable use of the water resources is not taking place. So we can always opt for such type of cultures in the villages, because every village almost has a pond and they are spring fed, so the water also stays there for almost all the year. But unfortunately we are not utilizing those resources for sustainable technology. This is number one. Now if we are maintaining the good water quality, good feed management, and we are using healthy seeds, as such we do, because it is a highland area, we will not have the prawn seeds here. Even we have brought the prawn seeds from ICAR Bhubaneswar, who have provided the seeds, good quality seeds. And The second point in my conclusion is we should always go for replacing plant resources with animal resources to minimize the toxicity of the water and to increase the profitability. The third approach is such type of research recommends that we should go for using standardized formulated feed so that it increases the economic upliftment of the tribal people of Koraput, and not only that, it can also open up an alternative small scale industry in such fringe population where Koraput is surrounded by tropical deciduous forests all around, and people are mostly dependent on the forest resources. Of the total research is has a two-way aspect. One is that we are conserving the forest resources. On the other hand, by stopping the shifting cultivation, and on the other hand, we are also providing some alternative livelihood to the women folk also who can be involved in the feed preparation, and for the culture we can use the men folk so that they can jointly work hand in hand and help in the development or give rise to sustainable development of this particular area of Koraput. And that is what is our aim is. When there is lot of loss in agriculture, they should always opt for aquaculture, which will in turn give them a quite a big profit. Even this particular species, Macrobacterium rosenbergi, can be used for polyculture. So both the ways they can be sustainable. They can go for more number of species. Only thing, the proper water quality has to be maintained, and proper scientific technology has to be trained to the fishermen so that they can go for this alternative livelihood, so that we meet the goal of UN: no hunger, no poverty, and climate action plan for the place of or the tribals of the Koraput. This is what is otherwise known as a sustainable development, which we have proved from our project. And it was, since it was a pilot scale project, we have given an option to the panchayats who can take up this technology for a large scale production. Thank you all. I am greatly privileged to share my opinion and my views on sustainable development with some scientific trigger. Thank you all.